Well, we have experienced some fascinating and very important messages from our speakers. We've got a lot of information in our heads already. Anna Grazia Laura will now give us a short, not a resume of what we've heard, but some thoughts on the information that's coming from these different directions on tourism, culture and transportation, and wrapping up this session so that we can take this forward to the final conclusions of the conference. In fact, we're very focused on picking up messages from each of these speakers who've given such well-rounded presentations, I think. So I'd like to thank all of the speakers very much for their contribution just now. And Anna Grazia Laura will come and make her summing up of what she has experienced from these presentations. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I would like to thank all the speakers for a lot of information and a lot of suggestions that may be useful for the rest of the conference and for the conclusions that we'll have to achieve on the very last day. Let me start from a question, or let's say what Scott Rains said. How far have we come? As a matter of fact, we've done a lot of progress since the first declarations and set of norms has been published on accessible tourism, on, let's say, inclusion of people with disabilities, mainstreaming all the concept of disability. The aim of full accessibility to the built environment has been already recognized internationally since 1993. In the United Nations Standard Rules on Equal Opportunities. Despite the signing of the Standard Rules by almost all the nations of the world, the issue of access, which was treated in number 5 of the Standard Rules, still remains the major problem from the technical and social perspective. In the recent years, designers, planners, and the European supporter of accessibility have put particular emphasis on the use of the design for all, which is an approach to the design of building, products and services which may contribute to the achievement of the complete accessibility and inclusion. Universal design, with its root in North America, is a parallel development which is gaining recognition for its practical value due to the clear definition of principle which guide this working method. Applying to the principle of design for all in all aspects of life, home, school, work, leisure time, transport, etc., it is possible to make significant progress to the elimination of barriers which currently prevent people with disabilities from enjoying a full and inclusive participation in an equal way with anybody else. And these, of course, include also the lack of reliable and updated information, a topic which has been tackled by all our 3 speakers. Consequently, the application of this principle in the tourism sector could produce higher quality for everybody, as well as a higher profit in the whole sector and new employment opportunities. But there is the need of a step forward. I have the feeling that every country or destination which wants to open to accessible tourism is starting all over again from the very beginning. In some contacts with very enthusiastic organizations, both private and public, I had the sad impression to be brought back at least 20 years. It's a kind of déjà vu. Collection of accessibility information is the first step, based on private and personal criteria. Big bathrooms with a lot of equipment and a minimal aesthetic appearance. The I know everything attitude, because a very good friend of mine is a wheelchair user. Accommodation only. What about food? transport, attitude of staff, needs other than mobility, entertainment, in a word, everything that leads to full autonomy of the tourist, of a person. It comes as all new to them, and I'm sorry to say it happens also in many countries where these issues have been discussed for decades and involve tourist operators who are willing to open to this market, but they know not enough to be really qualitative. Marcus told us about the need to make cultural life accessible. As a matter of fact, one of the driving factors of a traveler is by all means the approach and the contact with history, the cultural heritage of the country one is visiting, both from the monumental and the thematic itineraries point of view. This is another major point of limited understanding. A very important factor is the possibility to ensure an integrated offer by a tourist product chain which meets, in all its elements, the needs and the demand of tourists with disabilities, and by a service supply chain that can be enjoyed as a whole and in its individual elements. A tourist destination is an integrated system of attractions and services, or better still, a set of resources that attract and induce the traveler to make the necessary effort to go and stay there. However, many tourist providers need to extend their perception of accessibility and the need of people with access requirements in general. It is not only necessary to have accessible rooms and bathrooms. Cultural interest is a top issue for any tourist, whether they want to visit museums, a natural area, an open-air festival, a concert of their favorite singer or band or dancer, as we've seen yesterday. And this interest has to be guaranteed as any other part of the whole supply of chain offer. Many times, and I leave it on my skin coming from Italy, the country which has the most UN World Heritage Sites, conservation of the heritage as it is de facto blocking the access to a number of visitors with a lot of different participation requirements. To create accessible heritage sites is a global task which requires a global response. I am convinced that we have the expertise, both in policy making and technical know-how, to achieve this goal together. All the services and attractions which create a destination are definitely much broader than those that we usually consider. It's a question of full understanding what does accessibility means, as it has been mentioned this morning by our three speakers. Again, it's a question of having the right information. Again, it's a question of fully understanding what design for all of universal design can achieve in terms of accessible and inclusive tourism. It's a question of making our business counterparts aware that customers with specific needs just want the technical aspects of their needs to be considered in any facet of the traveling experience, and then feel free to be just a tourist. To be just a tourist, but how to get to my favorite destination? We heard a number of problems pointed out by Mrs. Anne Fry. The transport sector issues are as important as any other component of the travel experience, and maybe more. It is necessary to understand that each element of the chain influences and depends on the others. The whole service chain, and as we've seen, the transport chain as well. If one of the elements is weak, and from the quality of the fruition point of view, the holiday can be strongly compromised as a whole. The more so when a tourist is away from home and has to count on the offer of the destination area. We heard a number of how do I, and the answer to these questions are essential for any tourist that would like to go on holiday and be completely comfortable. The EU directives on transport helped in making air and ground travel more accessible to everyone. But what about the private transport? Tourist coaches, for instance, that are the backbone of a design of a tourist itinerary for all. What about disabled schoolboys or girls who cannot participate in their school annual trip together with their classmates because the coaches are not equipped? What about moving in a town in a metro line without knowing which stop is approaching and from which side to get off? Again, it's a question of information and structural situation. It is also obvious that a single entrepreneur can't control directly all the elements of the tourist service chain. Consequently, it is vital in all the strategic choices for the development of a tourist destination to involve all the relevant components, both public and private, who have a say in managerial choices and the possibility to plan and implement measures for the improvement and the inclusive requalification of a destination area. I am convinced that this major task could be achieved with the cooperation of stakeholders and organizations who consider the ethic of tourism together with the profitability as a major challenge to be overcome together. Our three speakers have set out a lot of challenges we still face communities and destinations. I believe that for destinations to grow and prosper and serve the needs of their citizens and visitors alike, we need to focus the minds on the decision makers on the key requirements of accessibility and inclusion, to the same degree, if not more, as focusing on environmental sustainability. We can create destinations for all only by setting clear targets for policymakers and then working as a community and in unison to develop the means to achieve these goals. Our speakers have lifted the lid on the box full of ideas and good practices, which can help to generate a flow of solution in all kinds of areas. I'm sure that we will hear more and many more achievements during these congresses, and we must then prepare to bring these positive messages to destinations, to communities. These positive messages are vital in order to make tourist business and all those who are involved in making tourism accessible for all aware of the world and the possibilities in front of them. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, if there's one thing I've learned from all these presentations, the first thing is information. So I'll just give you some information, say thank you for wrapping up. Thank you for all of you for being here. The most important information now is that there is a coffee break, and we will keep to the time, unfortunately, so we will start again 11 o'clock in all the parallel sessions. So take note of the program, which room you want to go to. The room number is given next to the parallel session. And as you drift out for the coffee or the refreshments, please keep an eye where you want to go, because there's quite a lot of choice here. And the other point about information, for those of you who can tweet and use Twitter, there is a hashtag DFA2014 for this conference, if you want to send messages to the rest of the world about what we're doing here. Thank you very much for enjoying with me the session. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you.